I never imagined my life could break in a single afternoon. One minute, I was heading home from campus, and the next, my phone rang with the call that shattered everything. Liam, my little brother, my only family, had collapsed in school and was rushed to the emergency ward. By the time I reached the hospital, he was unconscious, pale, and barely breathing. The doctors said his kidneys were failing faster than expected. He needed surgery. Urgent surgery. And they needed payment before they touched him. Before I continue, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more of this story. Your support helps us keep producing these emotional, gripping episodes. I stood there in front of the doctor, trembling. How much? I asked. He wrote the number on a piece of paper and pushed it toward me. My heart stopped. Even if I sold everything I owned, including my soul, it still wouldn't be enough. I made calls. Aunties, uncles, old classmates, church leaders, everyone suddenly had an excuse. Some didn't pick up at all. Others pretended not to know me. I ran to loan offices, begged for advances, even tried to sell my phone, but nothing worked. Time was running out, and the doctors refused to operate unless the deposit was made. By evening, I was sitting outside the hospital like a mad woman, crying into my palms, shaking with fear. Then Yvonne, my roommate and only real friend, sat beside me. "There is someone who can help," she said. I looked up, eyes swollen. "Who?" "A billionaire. Ethan Hale. He pays people's bills sometimes." "But..." She hesitated. "But what?" I pushed. "He never does it for free." Her words felt like knives. I wasn't naive. I knew what "not for free" meant. But Liam was dying. I didn't have the luxury of pride. So with a broken heart, I stood up, wiped my tears, and walked toward the only place everyone said I could find him, Royal Crest Hotel. The most expensive hotel in the city. The guards looked at me like I didn't belong there. Maybe I didn't. My clothes were dusty from running around town, my eyes red from crying, my voice gone from begging. But they let me in after I said his name. I was taken to the top floor, his private office. When I entered, Ethan Hale was sitting behind a glass desk, dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than my entire existence. Handsome, cold, unreadable. His eyes looked at me like I was a problem he didn't ask for. I told him everything. My brother, the surgery, the bill, the hospital refusing to help. He listened quietly, no emotion, no pity. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and said, "And why should a billionaire care?" My heart almost stopped. I had no answer. So I fell on my knees. I begged. I cried. I swallowed every ounce of pride I had left. Finally, he stood up, walked toward me slowly, and spoke in a calm, icy tone. "I will pay every hospital bill, in exchange for one night with me." I felt my soul leave my body. A night with him? For money? My whole being screamed no. But Liam, my brother, my baby. I wiped my tears, lifted my shaking hand, and signed the contract. That was the night I sold my innocence to save a life. The contract was signed. The deal was sealed. But I still felt like I was walking toward my own grave. That night, a black car picked me up from the hospital. I watched the city lights blur through the window as we drove to the penthouse of Royal Crest Hotel. My heart wouldn't stop racing. My palms were sweating. I kept thinking of Liam lying unconscious in that hospital bed. Every passing second was borrowed time. When the elevator doors opened on the 32nd floor, I stepped into silence. Gold walls. Marble floors. A hallway that smelled of expensive perfume and power. I expected guards, cameras, people watching, but there was only him. Ethan Hale. Standing by the window, staring at the night city like he owned every light in it. He turned slowly when he heard me enter. "You came," he said, as if I had a choice. I was prepared for cruelty. For a man who would handle me like a transaction. But what I found was worse. He was calm, unreadable, almost painful to look at. Those cold eyes held something. Something broken, something buried. He poured me a glass of water, not wine. He didn't touch me. Not at first. Instead, he asked questions. What do you study? Why did you take care of your brother alone? Where is your family? What do you want from life? I didn't expect that. I didn't expect him to care about my dreams, or my fears. And when I spoke about Liam, about how he used to run around the house, laugh loudly, draw superheroes on the wall, Ethan just listened. Quiet. Still. Almost human. Hours passed like minutes. When he finally touched me, it wasn't the touch of a monster. It was slow, gentle, almost careful, as if he was afraid of breaking me. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't cold. He was wounded. And I was falling into something I had no right to feel. The night was emotional. Intense. It wasn't about the contract anymore. It felt like two lonely souls holding each other for the first time. I hated him. I needed him. I didn't understand him. At some point I cried. Not because of what he did, but because of what life had turned me into. Sometime around 4 a.m., I finally fell asleep in his arms. But when I woke up, he was gone. No note. No goodbye. No explanation. The room felt empty, like the night had been a dream I was never supposed to remember. My clothes were folded neatly on a chair. The contract lay on the table. Stamped, signed, final. I left before sunrise, stepping into the cold wind with tears on my cheeks. I told myself I would forget everything. I told myself I would never see him again. I was wrong. That night didn't end my story. It was only the beginning. 3 days after the night at the penthouse, my phone rang. I was sitting beside Liam's hospital bed, half asleep, half praying, when the doctor walked in with a smile I didn't trust. "Miss Amara," he said, "the surgery has been paid for. Full amount. We begin immediately." I froze. Paid for? I checked the receipt. Anonymous. But I already knew. Ethan Hale had kept his word. I held Liam's hand as they pushed him toward the operating room. I was shaking, praying, crying silently into my palms. Hours later, the doctor came out with good news. Successful operation, stable condition, strong chance of recovery. I collapsed to the floor, overwhelmed with relief. My brother was going to live. I should have felt victorious. But instead I felt owned. Weeks passed. Liam grew stronger. His color returned, his smile came back, and he started complaining about hospital food again, which was the sweetest music to my heart. I tried to rebuild my life. I went back to school. Tried to pretend everything was normal. But normal died the night I stepped into that penthouse. It started small. My school fees were paid. Again. Anonymously. I received new textbooks and lab materials I never asked for. Then one evening after classes, a black car parked beside me. "Miss Amara," the driver said, "I was sent to pick you." I didn't even need to ask who sent him. I ignored the car and walked home. The next day, it followed me again. Every day. Silent. Waiting. Then the gifts started. Flowers. Groceries delivered to my home. Medicine for Liam. A nurse sent to check on him twice a week. It was kindness, but strangling kindness. I felt like I was drowning in it. So one afternoon, I marched back to the Royal Crest Hotel. Straight to his office. I didn't knock. I didn't care. He was standing by the window again, staring at the city, as always. "Stop it," I snapped. "Stop paying for things. Stop sending drivers. Stop interfering in my life." He turned slowly. Calm. Emotionless. "You needed help," he said. "I don't need you," I whispered. "Not anymore." He walked toward me, eyes fixed on mine. "The deal is over," he said softly. But I am not. Something twisted painfully in my chest. "What do you want from me?" I asked. His jaw tightened, like he was fighting words he didn't want to say. His eyes weren't cold this time. They were something else. Something dangerous. "I don't know," he said quietly. "But I can't stay away." I stood there, trembling. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part wanted to run into his arms. And the scariest part of all? I didn't know if he was obsessed. Or in love. It didn't take long before the rumors started. Whispers at first. Then stares. Then laughter. Everyone on campus seemed to know. Someone had seen the black car pick me up. Someone else saw me walking out of Royal Crest Hotel. Some genius found screenshots of the hospital bills, mysteriously paid. Soon, I had a new name. The Billionaire's Mistress. Girls pointed at me in the hallway. Boys sent disgusting messages to my phone. I heard my name in every classroom, every cafeteria table, every group chat I was never invited to. She must be good in bed. She sold herself for money. Poor girl turned rich man's toy. I tried to ignore it, but it hurt. Every word felt like stones thrown at my skin. One evening, someone spray-painted slut on my locker. I stood there, shaking, too stunned to cry. Yvonne tried to wipe it off, but the words burned deeper than the paint. I felt exposed, ashamed, humiliated. And Ethan? He did nothing. Or so I thought. His driver still followed me. His bodyguards watched from a distance. But he never showed up. He never called. Never apologized. He stayed away like a ghost protecting a life he wasn't allowed to touch. But one night, everything changed. I was walking home alone after classes. It was late, and most of the students had already left campus. The street was quiet. Too quiet. Footsteps echoed behind me. When I turned, a man grabbed my arm and shoved me against a wall. "Tell your billionaire boyfriend this is just a warning," he hissed. I didn't understand. I screamed, but his hand covered my mouth. I struggled, kicking, fighting, but he was stronger. He pushed me harder, trying to drag me into a dark alley. And then, a black car screeched to a stop. The man was ripped away from me so fast I barely saw what happened. Someone slammed him to the ground, twisted his arm, and pinned him there. Ethan. His face was pure fury. Not the cold businessman face I knew. This was something darker. Terrifying. For the first time, I saw what he looked like: angry. He punched the man once, hard. The attacker cried out. "Who sent you?" Ethan growled. The man choked out. "They said, hurt the girl, scare him, make him back off his deal." Ethan's jaw clenched. His voice dropped to a cold whisper. "If you ever touch her again, you won't see daylight." Security dragged the man away. And then Ethan turned to me. His hands were shaking. Not with anger. With fear. He reached out, pulled me into his arms, holding me like something precious he almost lost. "You could have been killed," he said, voice breaking. "You shouldn't care," I whispered. But he did. I could feel it in the way his chest rose and fell, in the way his breathing trembled against my hair. Later, at his penthouse, he told me the truth. Years ago, he had a fiancée. Her name was Aria. She had kidney disease. Just like Liam. He spent millions trying to save her. But she died in his arms. That loss turned him into stone. Cold, ruthless, untouchable. He built walls around his heart taller than his skyscrapers. And then I walked into his office. Angry, desperate, begging to save someone I loved. "I saw her in you," he said softly. And I failed once. I couldn't fail again. My chest ached. I didn't know if I wanted to fight him or hold him. I didn't know if I hated him, or if I was already falling. One thing was certain. He wasn't cold. He was broken. And I was slowly becoming the one thing he couldn't afford to lose. For days after the attack, I couldn't stop thinking about Ethan. His fear, his anger, the way he held me like something he was terrified to lose. I didn't know what we were anymore. A deal. A mistake. A story that should have ended but refused to die. So I went to him. No drivers. No bodyguards. Just me. When he opened the penthouse door, he looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes softened the moment he saw me, but he didn't speak. For the first time, he looked unsure of himself. I didn't come for money, I said. I know, he replied quietly. The room was silent. Heavy. Waiting. Why me? I finally asked. Out of everyone you could have chosen. Why me? He closed his eyes, took a breath, and the truth came out. Not cold, not distant, but human. That night wasn't payment, he said. It was the only excuse I had to keep you close. I didn't want just one night. I wanted you. My heart stopped. I told myself it was business. I told myself I was helping you because of Arya. But the truth is, his voice broke. I fell for you. And I didn't know how to say it without losing control. I felt every wall inside me crumble. Every fear, every doubt, every wound. Because the truth was, I fell too. Not because he was rich. Not because he saved Liam. But because behind the billionaire, the power and the darkness, there was a man who loved quietly, painfully, and deeply. I stepped forward, took his hand, and for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I'm not here because of a deal, I whispered. I'm here because I want you. He pulled me into his arms. No contracts, no conditions, no price. Just love. Months passed. Liam got stronger, healthier, louder, just like he used to be. Ethan funded his final treatments. But this time, I didn't feel owned. I felt protected. We got married in a small, private ceremony. No paparazzi. No reporters. Just family, friends, and a future that once felt impossible. The girl who walked into a hotel to sell her dignity walked out as a billionaire's wife. Not because of a contract, but because love wrote its own story. Weeks later, I started feeling strange. Sick. Weak. Dizzy. I bought a pregnancy test, sat on the bathroom floor, and watched the result appear. Positive. My breath stopped. A child. His child. A future we never planned. I looked at my phone, wanting to tell him. But fear wrapped around my heart. What if he thought I was trapping him? What if he regretted choosing me? So I made a choice. I packed a small bag, grabbed Liam's hand, and walked out the door into a world of unanswered questions. Should I tell him? Or disappear forever? Thank you for reading this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional and powerful stories. Your support keeps these stories alive.